Hello, yoginis. It looked like I had some lint in my hair, but I don't. Namaste. And today I want to talk about, we're going to talk about breathing. I'm going to talk about breathing. The subtleties of the breath. So the foundations, right? For those of you, so there are some of you, let me just rewind a little bit. There are some of you that are brand new to yoga teacher training. So it's very important for you to follow the online training, okay? When we get together in person in our immersions, we'll be working on posturing. So we're going to get into anatomy and physiology. So anatomy and physiology is structure of postures, and the verbiage that comes with the postures, right? So how to teach technique and other things, of course. But when we're in our immersion sessions, I want to focus on the physical practice for at least half of the time, because I want everyone to feel very strong in that technique. So we'll get into the Sanskrit names of postures, the structure, the anatomy of the posture, and the breathing that comes with it, and whatever, all the details that go along with that. But if you're brand new, and if you're brand new to yoga teacher, if this is your first time ever going through a yoga teacher training, it's very important that you follow along with the online portion, because that is a very deep foundation of what yoga is about and your personal journey. So in the 200 hour, which is all the online stuff, that just gives you a personal relationship to yoga. It really begins to cultivate your personal relationship to and with yoga, a yogic lifestyle. And then now there are these extra videos that I'm making for the 300 hour training, and to expand your knowledge and wisdom of the practices of the combination of Buddhism and yoga. So in the background, you might hear the TV. My daughter is watching TV. This is her. She doesn't nap. She never has. And so this is her relaxation time. And my time, our plans changed. And we were supposed to have a babysitter, and we don't. So I'm doing the work with her here, which is totally fine. We go with the flow. That's part of being a yogi. So today in this video, I want to talk about subtleties of breath. I'm going to lead you through some different types of breathing. And I'm learning new things now, and so I'm sharing those things. I'm learning to put a lot of it into words, because I'm realizing that a lot of what I'm learning has been in the background of my life for the past 20 years. So now it's coming to the forefront, and I'm learning the correlation and the depth of it. So for me, as I learn, when I teach, it's much, it just solidifies it, right? So I'm sharing with you as I learn, and also handing you over information to digest and to see how it feels in your body, and eventually how you can incorporate it into your personal practice first, right? Those of you that have been through the training with me, I put a big effort into personal practice, because that's where so much comes from, right? When you begin to develop your personal practice, which you should be beginning ASAP, even if that looks like 10 to 15 minutes of a yoga asana practice, some sun salutations, 5 minutes of breathing, 5 minutes of meditation. Doesn't have to be this extensive 3-hour thing every time. It's hardly ever going to be a 3-hour thing. Maybe an hour, 90 minutes, 75 minutes. So through your personal practice of asana, of breathing, of meditation, of the philosophy or the science. I don't really even like to call it philosophy, but there is some philosophy in there, but it's mostly the science, because when it is applied, it works. It's been tried and true for thousands of years, period. When you practice, you develop your own relationship with it. And you're practicing now from the vantage point of a teacher, okay? Of being a teacher. You are a student, yes. But you're listening and you're thinking of, how am I going to teach that? And I expect that at first you literally are word for word what I say. You can copy me word for word for word. That's totally fine. You'll have videos of classes. You can write it down. You can literally copy every single thing that I do until all of that becomes comfortable in your body and you find yourself coming up with your own words, stringing together your own flow, poetic way of structure, or, you'll find your groove. You'll find your groove. Even if you've already been through training, maybe you don't have a lot of teaching experience under your belt, you could do the same thing. It's perfectly fine. Also, can't promise that my dogs won't start barking like they're going to do now, because there's a package getting dropped off at the door. These are the gifts of imperfection, like Brene Brown talks about. But this is our life. And this is also, like, I'm going to talk about this so much, but the subtlety, like, how do we bring these practices into our lives? It's not just happening on our yoga mat and then we walk away and we forget and we get in the car and all of our stuff comes back. No, we are bringing this into our lives, right? In every way, our whole entire life becomes a practice. So it begins with the breath. So I want you to just close your eyes for a moment. In the words of Michelle Lowe that I really like, shut your eyes down, right? Because we're kind of like a big computer system. So close your eyes down and find posture. So we're always working to, when we work through these techniques, to sit up nice and tall, because that helps the oxygen flood the brain. It connects us to our practice. Our body knows this is what we're doing right now. Our shoulders are relaxed. So we basically come into a posture here like mountain pose, like Tadasana, mountain pose. Samastitihi is another word for that. Samastitihi or Tadasana, where we're finding neutral in the body. So we want to sit up in a place where we're finding neutral in the body, right? So there's not a big arch in the low back. Our pelvis isn't tilted one way or the other. It's sort of, and you might make some movements to find that, right? So you might tilt forward and back and see, oh, this is an exaggerated tilt forward. This is an exaggerated tilt back. What is somewhere in between? So you find that somewhere in between, and you're always welcome to sit on your mat, sit on a meditation cushion or a bolster, even a chair. That's perfectly okay. So we work to find neutral in the body. And imagine your head is just gently floating on your neck and shoulders, and it comes down the spine, and like you're looking down into your torso toward your pelvis. And at the pelvic floor, there's a diamond shape. The head hovers over the pelvic floor. And you can feel in your body this place, it creates a feeling of surrender in the body. And even in the breath. And you're just noticing as you begin to become aware of your breath, you tap into the breath. We're breathing in and out through the nose always. Filling the belly on the inhale, emptying on the exhale. We're noticing the quality of our breath without changing it. So you're just noticing the quality. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it steady? Or is it choppy? And as we continue to pay attention to our breath, this is the key to our practice right here. Our breath is the doorway. It's the whole house. It's everything. The breath leads us to our true nature, our bodies. It leads us to emotional holding and energetic holding. And it allows us, we enter into the house, it allows us to loosen that up, to create space and to heal. The breath is a profound tool. And I heard something the other day in my training that I absolutely loved. I'm going to go back and listen to it a few more times, because that's what I do. I watch and listen to everything multiple times. And then I teach it. Hint, hint. Through our breath, right? Through the prana, the life force, through the pranic movement of the breath throughout the body, we are able, and I know those of you that have been practicing yoga for some time, you've experienced this, now you have words for it. It brings us to the sensation in the body where there might be emotional blockage, holding, trauma, stories, right? Not stories yet, actually. It just brings us to the sensation first. That's why subtlety of breath. It's a very Buddhist approach to be in your body, because this is where everything happens. We don't need to go anywhere else right now. We need to be in our bodies and to recognize everything that's working within the body. Okay, and so the breath, if you continue to follow it, brings us to that place where we can feel the sensation of the emotional, I'll call them emotional wounds that we have. And with that focused awareness, which would be Dharana and Dhyana, two of the limbs of yoga, where we begin to withdraw the senses and focus our concentration, to that place right before the story, or it brings us to this awareness of the story behind this sensation wants to unleash, right? We don't need to dive into the story every time, okay? Especially if it's old. Not even especially if it's old. If it doesn't serve us anymore, okay? Sometimes the story, we have to tell it until it loses its power in the correct setting eventually, because we know we're working through it and we don't want to hold on to it anymore in that way. We don't want it to have that power over us. So the breath allows us to come to this place where we feel the sensation of the wound. And then there's a gap, right? The story is there, but we don't have to entertain the story. We can continue to breathe into the sensation of the wound, the entry point, and give it nourishment through the breath. And this is going to happen. I'm bringing this up because it's going to happen as we use our breath more and more. This is a wonderful healing technique, spaciousness technique. And I guess my personal desire for you, so throw it out if you don't want it, is that you're able to come to this place, these places within your own body. Come to the gateway of in between, of the sensation, which is where we want to be, where we want to work from, where we want to allow the healing, the breath to move through, to open up the energy there, and to dispel, dissolve the attached stories. So that we kind of hover in a form of emptiness, I believe, where it's allowed to exist as it is, because yes, things happen, right? There's no doubt. We've all lived long enough that we've had things happen to us. And we become aware and enlightened enough that we don't need to indulge in the lengthy stories of creation, okay? Because that's the illusion. Because within those stories, and we'll go deeper into this later, nothing exists exactly as it is, right? There's not just grief. Someone doesn't just put a blanket of grief on you and you're like, oh, that's grief because of this, right? It's like, this person passed away, and you could go through their whole life, and we should, right? This is like very analytical spirituality, I guess, if you will, where we can begin to see things for what they are as much as we possibly can. Like the actual truth of things is like, the grief comes from, yes, this person passed away. I'm just using this as an example. Suddenly, say. And suddenly could be a heart attack. Okay? But in that heart attack is a life of, it could be a full life, of a family, their own wounds, right? That may have created an imbalance in the heart, and maybe their diet, and maybe some genetic stuff, and they didn't meditate or exercise, so the genetic stuff never was transformed or into a different path. But anyway, like that person is made up of many, many, many different things that led to their death and your grief, right? And then we can begin to experience compassion around that in their life, and an expanded feeling that isn't so tight in the grief, right? Because you're like, this is life. Everybody lives, everybody dies. And in that, there's infinite rays and realms of existence that created that one life and your relationship with it. Right? So it's that the beauty and the ugly at the same time, and the choice, because you're on this path to be more compassionate and the path to healing and loving yourself, there's a choice to allow it to all exist at once and feel the fullness of joy in your heart, joy containing all those things, okay? That's that space before the story, right? We live in that expanded, we can choose to live in that expanded space and breathe. We come back to our breath again, okay? We're breathing in and out through the nose. So when that happens, I want you to write about it after. So maybe when the video is over, you take 10 to 15 minutes and breathe into your body, and you follow the breath, you follow the different sensations. It won't be long until there's a sensation, the subtlety. Maybe, who knows? This could be a practice for you. Maybe you don't tap right into the subtlety. Maybe the stories seem like they rise first, but when you start to fine tune the breath, when you really start to bring yourself in and you connect with the subtlety, and then you get to that place before the story and you can breathe into that and you witness, right? We're always stepping back into witness consciousness. So we're not involved, we're observing. So we get to the place where we observe and we breathe and we get to the edge of the story and we continue to breathe and we are connected with the fullness. And I'll teach you the 9-part purification breath very soon. So that's something that you can begin this practice with, 9-part purification breath. And then there's another healing technique that I'm going to teach you, Neizhong. It really prepares the mind and the body for its connection with freedom and clear light and luminosity and beauty, like the beautiful, the inside out radiant beauty, the radiant you that is innate to you. I'm going to teach you these practices that hopefully you end up doing every day and you teach them because this information is meant to be shared. If we're listening to the Dalai Lama, then we want to share in the purest way that we can the information that we're learning that allows people to step into their true nature of compassion, right? So we are becoming compassion, all right? You are becoming compassion. You are becoming compassion. And it begins with the breath. It begins with it's so, it's a practice, but it's as subtle as beginning with the breath, breathing, feeling into your body from that witness consciousness. We take a step back. There's always the witness in there, which is whatever, maybe the soul. Now there's a big S and small s soul that I'm learning about, but it's the part of you that is never born and it never dies and it has always existed forever and ever and ever and ever and ever since the beginning of time. And who knows, if there was a beginning of time. It's just infinite. So that part of you that's infinite becomes the witness to all of this and allows you to stay anchored and grounded in your body in this experience. Okay? So you can begin to feel a little bit lighter, a little bit looser. I know that we walk around with a lot of experiences that feel like a drag. And I don't, you'll hear me say over and over again, like in the meditation course and the chakra course, I'm never minimizing anyone's experience, right? And you deserve to be held in your experience and witnessed in your experience and heard in your experience. And I want you to know that you can you can hold yourself in love in those experiences and expand to joy and expand to compassion. So it's through our grief and suffering that we're able to become compassion for others, right? Become the bodhisattvas that we know we are. It's something that I have felt very connected to for years and years, and I thought that it could only be if you took a vow, a Buddhist vow, a specific vow to become a bodhisattva where you are affirming that you will come back over and over and over again until everybody is free from suffering. And I take that vow. I haven't formally taken the vow, but it just lives in me. And I'm practicing the virtues of that, one of them being patience and compassion and untying the knots of my past and extending compassion to my past, to myself, of course, and to the wounds of my past, which includes people, and recognizing them as parts of their past, and so on, and then their past, and their past, and their past, and the layers of impressions that have been pressed upon us to create harmful situations because of our lack of training. And my goal is for us to begin to peel the layers off. Let's untrain ourselves so we can recognize our true nature of compassion. And the breath, the breath, just that breathing in and out through your nose, into your belly, gently, easy. Find ease in your breath first. That's the only thing I want you to do after listening to this video, is find ease in your breath. And listen to the story of the sensations in your body. And see if you can start to tap into that place that's right before the story. And allow, if you find yourself crying or feeling different emotion, it's okay. It's okay. And you'll journal about that. And I want to, share. It's the best way to make this group bonded and connected and open and safe and supported and sacred, is by sharing. I cannot emphasize the word I was looking for before. I emphasize personal practice. I cannot emphasize that enough with sharing. And we'll share, in our immersions as well. Once we have our first immersion, I think we'll all feel connected, so sharing will come easier. And again, I'm going to see if everyone's on Facebook so we can maybe start a group. But I want you to leave this video working on finding that posture, that beautiful, neutral, free posture. I want you to recognize that you are compassion, all right? And we're going to explore that. We're entering into the doorway of compassion through the breath, the subtleties of the breath. So you're just breathing easy. You're not doing anything hard or strong, intense, nothing. Ease of breath. It will bring movement into this soon. You'll have practices, more than the videos that are in the online training. I have lots to share with you as far as that goes. But in this, the subtlety of breath as it moves through your body, use your imagination. If you're a more analytical person, open up an anatomy of the body, a front view anatomy or a front and back view, bird's eye view, and whatever that would be from the ground up. If you want to be able to see, imagine what you're seeing in your body, it doesn't matter. It's all connected, physical and subtle, energetic, emotional. Follow it through your body and see where it leads you, and be soft. You might find yourself, I guess I should talk about that, getting antsy as you sit there. It might come across as you're bored. And this is part of the training, right? Is to expand our discipline, expand our capacity to be able to stay, to stay with ourselves. This is our home. We are our home. We should be able to be in this home and feel at ease and feel at home in our home, right? Explore the rooms. And if this is brand new to you, you gently explore. And sometimes in this process, we realize, we need a therapist, we need support outside of this. That's okay. Like, that's great, actually. Be proud of what you experience and what you find, your findings. Be proud of that and the steps that you take. And also recognize that you are compassion, right? So we expand it out from just the psychological model of working so deeply in these emotions and stories over and over and over and over and over again. That's not the neurological response that we want to create in our brain, right? We want to create a new pathway that says, this happened. I honor my experience. And as I look deeply into the heart of the experience, I recognize that I am not just me. I am parts of many, many, many things. And the wound, the things attached to the wound, the story, the people, the places, the things, are not solid in and of themselves, but they are also an accumulation of many, many, many things. And take a deep breath and just be like, whew. To me, that's like a relief. I'm like, yeah, that is true, man. We are all wounded. Let's learn how not to perpetuate the wounding, right? By being compassion. Our practice is being compassion. And we lead people as yoga teachers now to be compassion. We are delivering, and we're going to continue to study well beyond this training with me, how to continue to cultivate being compassion and delivering people to that place where they can be free from suffering, where you can be free from suffering, right? The Buddha, he figured this out. He was a regular guy that said, you know what? If we're here, there's got to be, we know life is suffering. We know that from birth. Life is suffering. We suffer and we can alleviate suffering, right? So point A to point B. That's where we're going. Point A to point B. And it's beautiful, this marriage of yoga and Buddhism, because the physical body and these movements and the shapes that we create with our bodies through the practices and our breath and all of it, they're such a tool for alleviating suffering, for just turning, like Ram Dass would say, turning the channel from channel 2 to channel 3. Ooh, just a little more subtle, right? We recognize the depth. We're complex, okay? No more simplifying. We're complex, and you're able to be complex. But switching from channel 2 to channel 3. Ooh, channel 3 has a different show. Imagine that. It's not the same old show on channel 2 that we've been watching for our whole lives. We can switch to channel 3 and channel 4 and channel 5. Right? Our lives expand and we can switch back to 2. See it in a whole new way. Start with the breath. Easy, subtle, comfort in your body. I want you to really find comfort in your body if you get anything out of this video. Comfort in your body. Comfort in your body and listening, following the breath through all those different places and spaces. Let the pranic force bring you to the place. You've been there before, I bet, where you feel the sensation, but it's before the story. What does that mean to you? How does all this feel to you, too? You know, like what's coming up? And we can analyze that a little bit and allow us to go deeper and become freer through the sharing. If you have any questions, you are always free to reach out to me. Again, share with the group in the email. And when we meet on January 7th, We'll end with an Om. So Om, think about A-U-M when you sound the Om. Aum. It begins in the back of your throat. It comes forward. We close the mouth. It sounds for as long as you can, as long as the breath. There's different ways to do that, but that's the way that I have learned and that I enjoy the vibration in the body. So we'll close our eyes, hands at heart center, always honoring the wisdom in our hearts. And we bow to honor the hearts and wisdom of our many, many teachers and ancestors that have brought us to this very place in time and space. Let's take a deep breath in. Enlightened from the Guru, enlightened body, speech, and mind. Namaste.